Japan, 1645. A man senses the end drawing near. The hands that once wielded the deadliest blade in the country now shake. He knows he has only days remaining to leave behind something that could forever alter the course of people's lives. You're about to learn what this legendary warrior wrote, and why it might be exactly what you need to finally break free from the grip of your own fears. But be warned. Once you understand this, there's no returning to who you were. Picture yourself living without fear, without anxiety, without needing anyone else's approval to feel whole. Seems unthinkable, doesn't it? Yet in 1645, a legendary samurai known as Miyamoto Musashi did something remarkable. He gathered a lifetime's worth of wisdom, won through battles, victories, and hard losses, and distilled it all into just 21 straightforward rules. These rules weren't meant for fellow samurai. They were written for himself. A parting gift to the world before his departure. And what's most astonishing is that these very same rules can address 90% of the challenges you face today. Why? Because the nature of human problems hasn't shifted, only the setting has. The anxiety you experience in difficult moments mirrors what a samurai felt standing at the edge of battle. The difference, of course, is that you're unlikely to be facing a life-or-death situation the way he was. The social pressure you feel at work is no different from what existed in the Japanese imperial court centuries ago. But here's where things shift. Musashi found the answer. And today, you're going to discover precisely how to bring that ancient wisdom into your modern life. In this video, we won't walk through all 21 rules, but we will focus on the ones most capable of reshaping how you see the world. Before we get into it, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on the bell so you never miss new content. Now, back to it. Miyamoto Musashi was far from an ordinary samurai. By the time he was 13, he had already killed a man in a duel. By 30, he was considered undefeatable. While historians debate the exact number, many believe he won over 60 duels, never suffering a single loss. Not once. But here's the twist that changes everything. The more victories he accumulated, the more he understood that the real fight had nothing to do with other warriors. It was the battle within, against his own fears, desires, attachments, and weaknesses. And from that realization came a discovery that would shift everything he knew. Genuine strength isn't found in defeating others. It comes from conquering yourself. That's the heart of Dokkōdō. Dokkōdō translates roughly to the way of solitude or the way of walking alone. But don't misread that. It's not about withdrawing from the world. It's about emotional independence, the ability to feel complete without relying on anyone or anything outside yourself. Think about it honestly. How often have you made a choice based on what someone else might think? How many times have you held yourself back out of fear of being judged? How many times have you felt deflated simply because the validation you hoped for never came? Musashi grasped a fundamental truth: as long as your happiness depends on outside forces, you will never know real freedom. And true freedom is the foundation of an unshakable person. So how did he arrive at this? And more importantly, how do you apply it starting now? Don't worry, we're just getting started. Let's get into it. Out of the 21 precepts of Dokkōdō, 5 have the power to fundamentally shift your life. And the first one challenges almost everything modern society tells you. Precept 1: do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Hold on, this isn't a call to become a monk and strip away every enjoyment. It points at something far deeper: don't become a slave to your desires. Look around. Our entire culture is structured around instant gratification, streaming platforms, fast food, one-click shopping, social media, all engineered to deliver an immediate dopamine hit. The problem is that this builds psychological dependency. When you chase pleasure for its own sake, you become a prisoner of your circumstances. When things don't align with what you want, you suffer. When what you're after stays out of reach, frustration takes over. Control disappears. Musashi understood this 4 centuries ago: the person who governs their desires governs their life. The person governed by desire controls nothing. And here's the paradox: the moment you stop desperately chasing pleasure, you often find yourself genuinely happier, because you're no longer relying on the outside world to make you feel okay. Precept 2. Do not cling to things. This one hits differently in today's world. We've been conditioned to believe that happiness is found in accumulation, more wealth, more followers, more recognition, more stuff. But Musashi uncovered a hard truth: the tighter you hold on, the more vulnerable you become. Everything you possess can be taken away. And when you lose something you were deeply attached to, you lose a piece of yourself along with it. This isn't an argument for radical minimalism. It's a distinction between having things and being owned by them. It's subtle, but it's everything. When you don't cling, you can lose it all and still remain who you are. When you cling, you go down with it. Precept 3. Have no personal preferences regarding yourself. This may be the hardest one to grasp. Musashi isn't telling you to have no opinions. He's saying don't let your preferences define you. Don't build your identity on what you like or dislike. Why? Because preferences are constantly shifting. If your sense of self is tied to them, you're always riding an emotional wave. What you love today might bore you tomorrow. How you feel now might be completely different next week. People who are truly unshakable have an identity that exists beyond preferences. They know who they are regardless of what they happen to enjoy or reject in the moment. That's liberating. You stop measuring yourself by fleeting tastes and start discovering something deeper and more stable underneath. Now get ready, because the next precepts tend to shake people up the most. Precept 4. Do not seek to be loved or lovable. Sounds harsh. Let me be precise about what this actually means. Musashi isn't suggesting you become cold or unkind. He's telling you to stop contorting yourself for acceptance. Stop reshaping your personality to fit into someone else's mold. Stop making yourself smaller so others feel more comfortable. How many times have you said yes when every part of you meant no? How many times have you pretended to agree just to sidestep conflict? How many times have you swallowed your real opinion to avoid rejection? All of that, is seeking to be loved. And it's a cage. People who are unshakable don't require external approval to feel solid in themselves. They show up authentically, even when that means not being everyone's favorite person. And here's the paradox: when you stop performing for approval, you become more compelling. Authenticity pulls people in. The courage to be real is magnetic. Precept 5. Do not be guided by feelings of lust or love. This one tends to raise eyebrows, so let me explain what Musashi was actually getting at. He wasn't telling you to avoid love or relationships. He was warning against being ruled by those feelings, letting them override your judgment and steer your decisions into the ground. Think about how many people abandon their own dreams for a relationship. How many become unrecognizable versions of themselves just to hold on to someone? Musashi's position was that real love isn't about possession, it's about mutual freedom. When you love without becoming dependent, you bring your best self into the relationship. When you love from a place of desperation, you bring your wounds. And interestingly, research supports this. A study from the University of Rochester found that people in relationships rooted in healthy interdependence, rather than emotional dependency, were significantly more likely to report lasting and fulfilling partnerships. A behavioral neuroscientist with over 2 decades of experience noted that when you don't need someone to complete you, you're able to choose them freely, for the right reasons, and that creates a far more durable foundation. But no study can fully capture the felt experience of realizing you don't need anything external to be at peace. It's like setting down a weight you forgot you were carrying. And that brings us to the part that actually matters most: how to apply all of this in your real, daily life. Because without practice, philosophy is just conversation. Situation 1. Social media anxiety. You know the feeling: you post something and the response is flat. Or you scroll and feel like everyone else is further ahead than you. This is exactly the external validation trap Musashi was describing. The Dokkōdō solution is straightforward: stop posting to perform. Only share when you genuinely want to, and once you do, don't spend the next hour refreshing for reactions. Try it for a week. Before every post, ask yourself, am I doing this for me, or for them? If it's for them, hold off. You'll quickly see how much of your online behavior is driven by the need for approval. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Situation 2. Workplace pressure. Have you ever bent to your manager's wishes even when you knew the approach was wrong? Ever lost sleep over how others might evaluate your performance? Musashi, dropped into a modern office, would likely say, do your work with full commitment, but release your grip on how it's received. Control the effort. Let go of the outcome. When you stop burning energy on what's outside your control, you have far more to give to what actually is. Situation 3. Toxic relationships. How many times have you stayed in a dynamic, romantic, family, or friendship that was slowly draining you, simply because the alternative felt lonelier? Dokkōdō is direct on this. Being alone in your integrity is better than being accompanied while compromising it. Loneliness isn't the absence of bodies in the room. It's the absence of genuine connection. Apply this, and you stop tolerating treatment that diminishes you. You stop performing a version of yourself designed to keep the peace. And in time, you stop settling, replacing shallow connections with ones that are actually real. Situation 4. Consumerism. Have you ever made a purchase convinced it would finally make you happy, only to find the feeling gone within days? Have you ever bought something not because you wanted it, but because you wanted to be seen having it? Musashi voluntarily lived with very little, not from poverty, but by design. He discovered that the fewer things you depend on, the more freely you can move. This doesn't mean living without comfort. It means being the one in charge of your spending, rather than the other way around. A practical starting point: for anything non-essential, wait 48 hours before buying. If the desire is still there and your finances allow it, go ahead. The number of purchases that quietly disappear in that window will surprise you. Now, here's the layer of Dokkōdō that most people miss, and it may be the most important one. Musashi wrote these 21 precepts knowing his time was nearly gone. Many believe he was battling stomach cancer. He was writing with death already in the room. And it was that proximity to the end that stripped away everything non-essential and left only what was real. Here's the truth we all share: we're all going to die. You, me, every person you've ever known. The difference is that most people go through life acting as though that fact doesn't apply to them, and so they spend their time and energy on things that, in the end, won't matter at all. When you genuinely accept your mortality, not morbidly, but clearly, everything reorders itself. What other people think of you loses its grip. The dreams you've been postponing start to feel urgent. The life you've been performing for someone else's benefit starts to feel unbearable. This is the deepest lesson of Dokkōdō: live with the awareness of death, but plan with the assumption of longevity. As Augustine once put it, tend to your soul as though you'll die tomorrow, and care for your body as though you'll live forever. So what does it truly mean to be unshakable? It doesn't mean you feel no pain. It doesn't mean nothing touches you. It doesn't mean you've eliminated fear. Being unshakable means your sense of self is grounded deeply enough that outside turbulence can't uproot it. It means you could lose everything and still know exactly who you are. It's the difference between a leaf at the mercy of whatever wind comes along and a mountain that simply stands, regardless of the weather. Musashi built that foundation through a lifetime of combat, against others, and more significantly, against himself. You can build yours by honestly engaging with the principles of Dokkōdō. It won't happen overnight. It won't always be comfortable. But it is entirely possible. And here's the question I'll leave you with: if you had 1 week left, how would you spend today? What fears would finally lose their hold on you? What pretenses would you drop? What honest things would you say out loud? You don't need a deadline to answer those questions. You can start right now. Because Dokkōdō was never really about preparing to die. It was always about choosing to fully live. If you've made it to the end of this, you've already done something most people won't. You've sat with ideas that challenge you. That takes something. The only question left is whether you'll carry this with you beyond the video, or leave it here. That decision, as it always has been, belongs entirely to you.